Today we are interviewing Goose, the school mascot, top performing ads, been traveling through the whole world, including my couch. And today I want to go deep into specifically how are you doing everything that you're doing, from software to top performing ads to traveling the world to like winning the school games to working at school. There's so much we can dive into, but you recently came from Alaska, so how was that, bro?
Yeah, even crazier. It was Antarctica. That's right.
Yes,
Yeah, that was
Antarctica.
in a word cold. Um, it was of all the people that I've listened to that have gone there, right? I One thing that I wasn't expecting was like how much life is there at the edge of the world. There's just so much life. I also didn't ever ask the question like, where do whales sleep? They just sleep at the surface. So they're just like, if you take a little boat out, you'll just pass by sleeping whales that
Great.
are just snoring. They're just snoring because where do they go? They don't have whale houses. They just surface and
Huh.
breathe and conk out. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. So by day three, we were like over whales because they're everywhere. They're just all over the place. I never expected that I'd go to a place and be like, okay, I'm bored of the whales. And also the penguins stunk. So I like the whales more, but that was unexpected. Birds everywhere, penguins. I mean, they're birds, but not like the flying kind. And whales. What a freaking experience! And also, our mastermind was super challenging because you cross the Drake Passage in order to get there, and there's this thing that we hear where it's either Drake Lake, very calm, or it's Drake Shake, and there's not much in between. We got the Shake on the
Oh.
way over there, and 7 foot swells, so that the boat was even pitching. And so yeah, it's a cruise ship. And then on the way back, it was even worse. So it was very hard to be doing that, and we even have footage of us like falling forward and stuff, people sleeping on the floors while we're at the mastermind all together. It's very challenging.
I feel like that's part of the adventure though. Like if I'm going on a school cruise and I'm expecting to kind of like go on this adventure, like we need to have these challenging moments. And I was chatting with Justino, who's a client of mine, and he was like having like just the greatest time. And just like planting the flag at Antarctica and kind of like finishing up the whole world tour. How many events have you done within like 1 year then?
I think we did almost 40 events, each one in a different city. Yeah, 30 something. Yeah, it
Crazy.
was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and remember, there was a time there, shortly after we were hanging out over at your place where we crashed at your pad, we had like three cities a week for a period of time.
Yeah, I remember that being like extreme crazy. And I remember when we were in Munich and we were like just traveling and like, okay, we have sleeping time, which is the train. That is our,
That's right. Your sleeping time is your transition
yeah.
between locations. Exactly.
So massive respect for doing that. I think you brought school to so many people and connecting with that. And when I was spending some time in Barcelona, people were still like, "Oh yeah, Goose," who was like doing the event in Barcelona. And I think it's a great opportunity to start something. And it's like, hey, I'm traveling to a new city. I'm full-time schooler. I want to hang out with other schoolers. And being able to hit up a mayor who's like, hey, I got you, bro. We've been doing this. It's such a fun and exciting time. And I do know you have a follow-up on that. So what
Yeah.
is the next level after you having like done the whole trip? And it's like, how are you gonna like bring this even one level higher?
Yeah. Well, I guess this is the first time I'm
Ooh.
technically announcing it, so this is exciting. World Tour One was the seven continents. That worked. That was a lot of fun. It was based on volume, not necessarily quality of events. So some of them were bangers, some of them were snoozers. They were all over the place. But the fact was, we had them in every city we went to, and that was the goal. So we hit it. This one is World Tour Two. Sounds funny. And we're going to be touring all 50 states in the U.S. And what we're going to try and do is lean into quality events. So it might actually not be huge. I mean, it depends on how the reach goes. We'll see how it goes. But the events are going to be like baller. Like that's going to be the main push for this. Is like we took all the information, all the feedback that we got from year one, and we're putting it into this, which will be cool. And on top of it, one of the challenges that we laid out was like to see, like not just to that whole show don't tell concept. Like one thing we could do is have it school sponsored, and it just becomes an extension of like school itself. Alternatively, we could just have it be something that is run by the community, right? So I step into more community shoes, and we try and fund it that way and demonstrate, hey, actually, we can figure out a way for the community to get value from this on multiple levels and maybe have it community funded. And then truly, it's a community project, which would make sense on a community platform. So that's going to be one of the big changes we're going to do this year.
That sounds fantastic. And that's also how I originally got connected with you. I think it was one of the first Blitz events that you were running when you're like, hey, like you can win one of these IRL events. And I was like, that sounds fun. And like, I'm always down for a competition. And I think like the Blitz is such a great way to start connecting people with one another. So for people who have no idea what the Blitz is, can you give us a little bit more detail around this and how this is working and how it's engaging the community?
For sure, yeah. So a lot of times, I mean, when we're talking about a community platform, it's an adjustment from your usual business platform. So a lot of times what you're optimizing for is like LTV, the lifetime value, how long someone stays in your ecosystem. And even when you're like getting traffic and onboarding them, having like a more personable relationship goes a lot further than just like typical transaction value or like general texting points or lists. Or, like there's something beautiful, especially as like AI is ramping up, to interacting more and more in person. But you can't do that all the time. So the next step from that is, okay, how do you inspire someone to do the thing that they probably know they should do anyways? Which is usually a thing. Like that's the basis of the school games, right? Is that you know that taking these actions will make you more money. But if you're competing, you might actually play the game that happens to make you more money, right? This is just the way our minds work. So the Blitz was a version of that, because while I was hosting the games 2 years ago, this was like, I'm just sucking information from a fire hose, like, okay, how do these things work at scale? Big ones, small ones, whatever. And the Blitz was what I launched within Goosify, which is where we test a lot of these things to see how they function, what are the limits, what works better, that kind of thing. And we were basically measuring how people would keep their community members engaged, and then also share that information. So kind of have this like almost mastermind sort of feel, where you would test something and then share it. Test something, share it. When you have people doing that in mass, you can kind of like get a lot of really good information there, especially for different niches and industries. And now I've run that every other month for maybe a year or something in Goosify. And yeah, the reward is usually like, hey, you get to come hang out with us at some point somewhere in the world, and it crushes. We don't give money rewards. That one's always a little bit like, you want to be cautious about doing that. But if you buy something for them and give them that, that's safer. And I can talk through the whole psychology of that if you want. But the general idea is that when you are putting together a competition, it in your space or community, it addresses the need for connection without saying, hey, you connect with each other. You just keep the place for it so that they can all become buddies within your space, which is what transitions you from like a guru to a network model, which is very helpful for the long-term success of a community, where they kind of like start developing their own identity and stuff. Yeah, does that answer it okay?
It does. And I really like how collaborative it is, because it's not just like everyone against everyone, because like people actually team up with one another, and now you're part of a team. It's not just like me against everyone, but it's like, hey, this is like my team. And then like I've like, when I was running it, there were like even teams who were collaborating a little bit and like liking each other's comment. And I really like this cascading things. And I've been thinking, and I'm still waiting for a community that is Hogwarts themed and that like use the Hogwarts house point system on something around that. Feels very similar to that. And I guess this leads to the next thing. And I also see it on the whiteboard behind. You literally have like Narnia and fun and like magic and carnival written in there. And I think this is what like usually is considered as the inside joke. And I think it's like one of the lessons that I keep repeating to everyone on the difference between what is actually community versus like just a traditional business and just having fun around this. So I know the first one is like shared purpose, the second one is frequent interactions, and why is the third biggest, most important thing inside jokes?
Good question. Good memory too. So yeah, the reason why inside jokes is the last one, and why I call it inside jokes is one, on its surface, it draws a line. So some people get it, some people don't. Community by its nature has to end at a certain point, otherwise it's not a community. So there's always going to be some in, some out, and that doesn't mean you're not part of it. It just means you're part of a different one, right? Or you're in it. So the larger version is that when it really comes down to it, what a community is achieving that a business isn't is value in more ways than the traditional, which would be here's knowledge, now you have it, and then what the relationship pretty much ends. So this is more factoring in like a long-term relationship of some kind, and the longer it is, the more it benefits both of you if there's value being exchanged, and value in this sense being like emotional or sense of belonging or something like that, in addition to traditional value. So I kind of liken it up to community's essence is about being relatable, not being professional. Whereas a standard business would be being more professional, which is usually like a secondary phase. So you can kind of like ease into it easier, but it's a different set of tools than your standard business would be. So when we talk about the inside joke piece, that's usually where you step in, you say, hey, here's the stuff that I like for no in particular reason, and then, here's the thing that you do, and the space in between those, your offer and then how you deliver it, is kind of where all of that grows, the culture, if you would. And that has to come from something that you and I get that the next person that comes into the room might not get. So either they go, fuck this place, I'm out, or they go, I'm curious, tell me more.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think that's the key aspect. And like a community isn't for everyone. It is for a select few that really vibe with us, and having like our different quirks, which are usually called, this is not professional. You're not supposed to like do lightsaber combat at the office. And it's like, no, this is exactly what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that's right. It's the thing you always run into, old guard versus new guard. No, they're not necessarily wrong, but neither are you. It's just a different strategy that's optimizing for a different part of the human experience. Whereas your standard business would be, I'm going to get you from this point to this point. That's standard business. And when you really expand upon that, it, optimize for LTV and the extent of the relationship, that kind of thing, that's leaning into sort of a different, it's just different. And I would argue better. I like that
It
more.
is so much more fun. Like I've
It's a
had,
little more fun, for sure.
and I think Hormozy talks about this quite nicely. There are like finite games and infinite games, and the
Yeah.
finite games are the ones where you have a specific goal and you achieve it and you're done playing. But the infinite games are the ones where you win by continuously playing. And considering that business is a game where you want to stay in business as long as possible, optimizing for this fun piece, which may not make as much money as possible right now, but it is going to make the whole business much more sustainable because we are optimizing for something that we actually want to do. Like how many business owners are like after 3, 5 years, like I'm burned out, I don't want to do this anymore. So I think this solves that. So when we are looking at the whole journey of building a community, I think there are different stages that we have to go through, and a lot of people are starting at the wrong stage because they look at someone like you or Kirby or Matthew Thompson and they see it's like, oh, they are like have these massive communities, they're making like lots of cash already, but that's not necessarily where everyone started with. So I know you have a really nice model and like a progression system on how communities evolve over time. I think you're calling it like a staircase or like the evolution path of the different communities. Do you mind
Sure, yeah.
running us through that, what that looks like?
Yeah, the latter. So the technical version of it is that you start with a service, usually, where you're trading time for money, and you can't really scale that. When you go to bed, you stop earning. So after you've become pretty good at doing the thing, and that's important so that you don't just become one of those guys. Then you have the opportunity to teach it at scale, so higher volume, usually cheaper, and that would be your education category. So now you teach how to do the thing that you used to do. Um, from that point on, basically, if you want to, I mean, and there's so much available. Like that jump right there, anyone can basically go into millions if you start, organizing that. And I mean like millions MRR. But after that point, if you really want to scale, and you don't have to wait for the millions at that point, you can go into software, which is becoming easier to, cheaper. It's becoming cheaper to get into that space. And software is where you get even more freedoms to like, well, maybe the price stays the same or decreases, but the volume definitely increases because the barrier to usage is going to be lower. Yeah, those are the three, like technically speaking, that I talk about people going with. But if we use school as the example, right? In simpler terms, when you start your community, you first of all just be like ideally your weird self and kind of flex those pieces because it'll attract, it'll push some away and attract others to you. So you want more super fans, then you want a wider net of people that know who you are. And if you do that, especially early, then you are just posting a lot until you get people inspired to post too. Then you're commenting a lot so that comments outnumber posts significantly. And then at a certain point, when you've got so much engagement, you can disappear on the weekends, which isn't that long. Like you just have to stick to it for a couple of months, but then you disappear on the weekends, and you come back and things are totally fine. Everything's still active and still going. And that's usually like the three phase that I will talk about. So I categorize that as the posting, the commenting, and then the flywheel.
Ooh, I like that. I haven't heard this from you, so I think this is a useful information on like going deeper into the community game. I do see more and more software popping up. Like there are different extensions now that like do all these different things. And I know that you've been putting a lot of time and effort into Wingman, which is a CRM. So unless you are from like the business world and you've been like doing this for some time, people are like, what even is a CRM and why would I need this? I do think it's like super important, but considering on like how much time you've invested in that, I'm sure you have a much better explanation.
Sure, yeah. I mean, in a perfect world, but I'm an artist that usually had to learn how to do the business thing. So I would love it if things just sold on the merits of their beauty. That's what I want the world to be like. It's not like that. So like you see shit fly off shelves that's just trash, right? And people buy it. It's marketing and sale. But then of course at the end, if you really want to like extend again community LTV, you do need a good product. The problem with software now is because it's so accessible, you can get some junk software. It's a lot easier. Like I could sit down myself. I don't need my dev team to create a product that does something like Wingman. The problem is if I ever need to change it, adapt it, debug it, that is where the nightmares come in. So V1 MVP, solid. Everything after that is a nightmare. It'll probably be a long time, if ever, that just figures itself out. The thing that's interesting about when you're scaling a community is right out of the gate, if you don't have some kind of CRM, like hopefully you're just doing it and donating your time and okay with that. Because the moment you get a CRM involved, meaning like day one you open your community, which is why I made it, because people were spending crazy money on building their own custom ones, which wasn't necessary. And it gives you clarity on what you're trying to do, sort of gives you some guidance in it too. So like, hey, are you trying to sell them? Are you giving them the adequate amount of value? Are you fine having these guys all in your free category? Gives you an idea of like, what's the customer journey like? Because it's one thing if your communities come together and they're all just like hanging out together and having a good time, and that's awesome. But if you want to be starting to deliver value or change people's lives, that's where you get the CRM involved. That's also when you're doing value at that level, that's when you start making money. That's kind of the backbone of the whole value thing. So it sort of ends up becoming like a necessary, important feature that we needed. And so I was like, okay, I guess we'll do it. And I was fortunate enough to have some of the school team at the time like really break it down so that we could integrate that whole thing. So shout out Wick especially. He was a big part of that.
Yeah, I bet. And I think making it look like school is such a big, important step because ideally we want to use as little software as possible, right? Like the reason we're using school is because it replaces it replaces my website, it replaces my like payment processor, it replaces my learning management system. I have a calendar in there, I have the community in there. And it's like it even does live hosting and videos and like I could like the list is much longer than this. So making it all feel like part of one system is super important. And I know that you transitioned towards like more of the technology focus, and you were before in the relationship category. So I've always was curious on like how did that go? Because making people use this kind of software, it's always like building it is easy. Making people use it is much more difficult.
Ooh, I
So
used to think that too. I think both are hard now.
yeah.
It's interesting because originally, yeah, I'd won with I'd won the school games originally, whatever that was, a couple years ago, with a DFY funnel building offer, and then I transitioned to an education offer, so service education software. Literally, that's where it went for me, and it happened in like a year, as soon as I landed on school. So, um, when I switched to software from the education or the DFY side, the play was that at that point I had seen so many people, beginners and those making like 30K and above, because I was hosting the school games at that time. So I was seeing all of this stuff, and it was like the same problems over and over. So I got a very close perspective on all of it that I was like, okay, then I guess I'll start addressing and making just that. And it had to be done in a way that had a little bit of fun with it. So the rollout was slow and steady. And so now that we have so many features and like automated DMs and triggers and stuff like that all launch within the next 30 days.
Oh,
I mean, that's it. That we now have like the full complete product that I was hoping to have back then, which includes like the themes and stuff, which are the cute little fun things that make it easier for you to do the thing. Because what I was seeing, which is why I was like so much the culture guy, which is easy because I can just be myself, but was because truly, if I tell you what you have to do, and it's not going to be easy, right? It's going to be a challenge. And probably a lot of it you already know, right? Whatever's working, do a lot more of it. But it's hard. Business is hard. Doing things that aren't that much fun is hard.
yeah.
So if you can gamify it or make it a little bit more silly or like a little bit, just remove some of these like emotional frictions, it makes it easier for more people to win. And that was what I really wanted to do with Wingman, was not just make the software that did the thing, which of course would be fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But this one would do the thing, and it wouldn't be an absolute drag to use. And that there's a charm that school has that you're interacting with all these other people, so it makes it beautiful, right? Anyone else that replicates it, like the competition that replicated it, it's hollow and lifeless because it doesn't have the people. So the functions were driven by the people. I don't necessarily have that benefit with a CRM tool, right? It's just a copy of all the members that are in your community. So that the glue, what makes that work is like, hey, this doesn't suck to use. And finally got to that point this year pretty much. It's really nice.
Nice. Yeah, I love how much you're just copying school's methodology. And I think we, as community members, we are able to also influence the culture of school and like making it more colorful. And I think this is like what you're also doing with the IRL events and like how much this is generally influencing the whole culture. And it's like, hey, like we are doing more IRL events because one of my favorite sayings of you is like community so good it happens in real life. So
Yeah.
to maybe go back on the full circle, I wanna to finish things up, touch a little bit more on the event, the second world tour. Can you give us more detail about this? Like, how can we join there? How can we contribute? How can we make sure that like we are not missing out on anything there?
I am actually tonight because I was chatting with Evelyn, and we're gonna team up on this one. We're gonna launch a bus community, and it's just gonna we're probably just gonna call it the bus, and it's pretty much gonna be because if we're gonna be like showing how you can do a movement like this, and it shouldn't just be me, like
Yeah.
copy what I do and do it for yourself. I'm going out, I'm spending a ton of money to get a bus and retrofit it and like drive around
Yeah.
and get people stoked. That's what we're gonna do. I'm pulling the schedule like out of my ass. I've never done a bus before. I don't know how the hell to do it. There's some people that seem to know what they're doing, so I'll hope to try and get them involved with it, right? But I'm just taking like all the resources that I earn from this, like me and my team bust ass for it. We get that so that we can do this. So we're gonna open that bus community this evening, and from that point, people can basically help make the thing happen by joining that, getting a bunch of value from it because I'm going to put a bunch of nuggets that I haven't really talked about much yet, and then Wingman. Wingman is funding the thing too, which is like kind of a beautiful full circle thing to have the tool that makes it easier to use community fund the IRL arm of community. It's
I like
perfect. Ideally, by the time we're done with that, more of what we did the first year will happen, where I roll into a town, bring a center of gravity, everyone gets excited, and then they all meet each other, and we have like the mayors and something else that then keep it running afterwards. And I think we're really going to double down on that this year, so that everyone gets it. I don't have to be there for this to be a thing. You just like get excited, be passionate about it, do it because you love it, and then eventually it always works like this, at least in my experience, the people that I've seen. If you love it fucking hard enough and do it long enough because you love it, it'll start taking care of you. You just got to like learn skills along the way.
Mm. Yeah, I think that is really the direction, and it's so aligned with like what school is doing, because it's like ultimately it's like do what you want to do what you love, because like this way you're not even competing with anyone, right? Like the one who loves walking will go so much further than anyone who has a specific destination,
That's
and
right.
something that I'm super excited. Maybe we can like make this happen with the bus tour. I think that was
Yeah.
one of the first ideas that we were like kind of like getting super excited about, is like how can we get the Pokemon Go Mayor competition thing going? um,
I'm I don't know how we're going to execute on that yet, but it's on the roadmap. I
ooh, we need to
also,
make this happen, bro.
Gerardo from school was also like, hey, how do we get passports so like people can get stamps? I'm looking into getting coins printed so that you can like get a coin, or like have competitions that happen so we could have like a city champion or something like that that holds the belt until the next competition. All kinds of we can
uh,
do anything. The whole point is that we're in this glorious, like, unique situation where we're on the forefront of community for community's sake, right? Where you have wherever you feel that sense of belonging is the part of your life that helps accelerate your growth in that direction, right? You become
mm,
that you surround yourself with, and to be able to like push that for everyone is like amazing, especially because I don't know any other force in the world that's trying to like counteract the whole like digitization thing. Yeah, exactly. There you go. A little bit of that's it. There's a
yeah.
disturbance in it. I get it.
Yeah, I think that's like where we're going. We're changing the education system. We are changing the way that like business and traditional business is happening. And we're making it fun. We're making it gamified. And we all love what we're doing. And that is why it becomes unreasonable for it to not succeed. So thank you so much, Goose, for like jumping on, sharing all of these golden nuggets. Um, as a last thing, like what is something that you want to share with someone who is thinking about like, okay, I want to make this school thing work, and like what is some advice that you as the mentor is like giving this young adventurer on their path so they can like successfully yeah, fight the dragon and go in the cave.
The bad news is the dragon is you.
Ooh.
That's So what you would have to do is decide on a topic. Doesn't have to be the one you're going to stick with. Just something that you know you can stick with for 30 days. It's got to be something that you know you can stick with for 30 days. You just go to town on that, talk to everybody, bring them in. Hey, what can I give you of value? Determine what that is. But the way that I like to say it the most, which you'll probably remember, is you build the plane while you're flying it. It is counterintuitive, but is the backbone of everything community. If it feels uncomfortable, then you're probably on the right track, because it really requires a certain degree of vulnerability. And if you can be comfortable, like if you, truly, it helps if you love what you're doing when you start, because it doesn't have to be a super clear offer. But if you start, you just start getting people in there, especially more in a smaller amount of time. The likelihood of success is tenfold increased from being able to concentrate effort in a small amount of time, bring a bunch of people in, and just start seeing how you could help them with their lives. It works. I see it happen all the time.
Love it. Goose, appreciate you. Take care. And yeah, let's enjoy the journey together. And maybe I'll be joining your bus.
Uh, you have to. I'm glad you
I for sure will.
All right. I'll see you
Take care.
later.